Folks, welcome back to another episode of the Solo Sessions, where we are talking about how to achieve absolute total freedom by escaping the matrix. This is going to be a short video about the most important, biggest, not important, but the biggest man-made construct that I believe we need to escape from if we want to achieve total freedom. Before I jump in, a very quick life update. You might hear a little bit of construction. We know this already. However, this will be the last interview or podcast that I'll be doing in this home. I am in the process of moving to a new country, which will be happening next week. And this is actually the first podcast that I'm also filming on video. So if you want to check out this video, check out josephpowell.ca. Where you can find it on, and also on my YouTube channel, The Masters of Life Society. But this will be also the last time you'll ever see this background from all the videos that I have been shooting, whether it be on social media. So very exciting things to come. Life is always an adventure, and this is what I sign up for when it comes to achieving absolute total freedom. So I've been thinking always, every day, a lot about what is this matrix? What are these constructs? And how can I create more freedom in my life? Like the absolute level of total freedom. I want to share with you, and I talked on, I believe, the first episode of the podcast about what my definition was for the matrix. And I've actually updated it. And this is what I now think, as I'm evolving, what I think the definition of what the matrix actually is, which is layers of man-made constructs that limit the human experience. Layers of man-made constructs that limit the human experience, meaning that we have this very raw human experience that we've all been put on this planet to be a part of. And over the years, these fabrics have been laid on top of rules and things that we need to follow, which not all are bad, but things that do limit the experience in some way or another. And I believe if we want to get back to that absolute total level of freedom, then we need to be removing these man-made constructs. Now, the first construct that I talked about, I did, I believe, an introduction to what this podcast is about, and then I started getting into these constructs. In each episode, I'm going to be breaking down my own personal experience with putting myself through this process of escaping and breaking these man-made constructs. So last week, as you know, I talked about identity, how we can change our identity and how that's a powerful way of escaping a construct. Today, I want to talk about the construct that I have currently been taking on, which is the biggest one that is going to be the hardest to break, but I am in the process of doing so, which is time. Time is not real. Time is a construct that has been created for us. And I really think that this is such a unique and interesting idea, mainly when I think about how sometimes time goes so slowly and other times it goes so quickly. And when you travel, you really notice this. Like I'm currently in Costa Rica, and I don't know how long I've been here, 7 or 8 months now, and it does not feel like 7 or 8 months. But I'll tell you this, when I lived in Vancouver for the last year, the last 6 months felt like 7 years. And there's really these different things that happen. There's all kinds of different examples that people share with how time is an illusion. I've heard examples of when you call people in different time zones, how there's no lag when you're calling someone on the phone. There's all kinds of incredible ones anyways. But anyways, I want to talk about today the construct of time and how I am trying to escape this construct. Now, again, in certain situations, until I create absolute total freedom, there's still going to be situations where time is important to me. For example, my coaching calls. Obviously, a lot of my clients are still working on a schedule, which I appreciate. And for that reason, there are times when I need to focus on time. But I am at this point trying to step away from my entire life revolving around a clock. And if you want to talk about breaking habits, what I learned immediately was waking up, and the first thing that I would do, and probably what all of us do, or most people do anyways, is check our see what time it is. This simple thing of, I haven't been doing this now for about 3 weeks and it's starting to get a little bit easier. But man, let me tell you, I had no idea that was even a habit, but it was probably my biggest habit. And of course, when we talk about escaping the matrix and how there's always a lot of things that are fighting against us, I tried to remove the clock from my phone, which is impossible. You know, this is a very difficult one, I'll just say, to escape from. But there are ways. I changed the color of the clock so that I can't really see it unless I really look for it. And I'm doing whatever I can to avoid needing to see what time it is. Now, let me share with you 3 benefits that I've already learned from this that are absolutely incredible. The first one, which is by far the most incredible thing that I didn't even take into consideration when I went to break this construct, which is by not focusing so much on time, this is helping me to live in the now. This is really helping me to be present. And I know that for many people, finding out how to live in the now and how to be present is a really big goal for a lot of people. And I don't think actually anyone has mentioned this idea of using this as a tool to do so. And here's what I learned. When I stopped focusing on time, what I actually realized that time is for, it's more than anything, it is to help us to prepare for and forecast the future, not to be present. So what I've learned is very rarely am I checking the time because I need to know the time for that exact moment. In most cases, when I'm checking the time, it's because I'm forecasting for something in the future, whether it's my next call or something that I'm trying to prepare for in the future. Whether it is what I need to do maybe later that day, in terms of like your calendar during the week, like what do I need to do tomorrow? What do I need to do for next week or next month? A lot of times what I'm learning is that the reason that I use time is to forecast for the future. And whenever we're forecasting and thinking and living in the future, we're not being present. So what I learned with, waking up and not checking my phone and not checking my calendar for the week ahead, it allows me instantly to focus on the now. And what I've really been doing is focusing on just my day today. So not looking at my calendar, not thinking about tomorrow. How can I live today to the absolute fullest? What are my intentions just for today? And this idea of time, of using this to forecast our future and getting rid of this without even intentionally doing it for this reason, I have learned that this is the thing that has allowed me more than any other affirmations or meditations or other things that I've tried to be more present in my life. This has been the biggest tool to help me to do so. So that is the number one biggest thing that I've learned with trying to step away from the construct of time. Now, the second reason, or the second beautiful realization that I've had from escaping this construct, is that it helps me to live fully in alignment. And what I mean by this is, a lot of you know my goal is to achieve absolute total freedom. And I talked about this in a video, that what I mean by total freedom is not having the ability to do nothing. It's having the ability to do as much of what I want to do as possible and as little of what I don't want to do as possible. That's really what I think about when I think about achieving total freedom. Because I like doing things. My goal isn't to sit on a couch or sit under a palm tree drinking coconut water or margaritas. I like to do things. I like to be productive. I like the feeling of progression and growth. But I like doing it. I like doing things when I feel, especially from an energy perspective, of being in alignment with doing these things. So what I have learned about myself is that when I plan things, I have no idea, and going back to the idea of forecasting things for the future, I have no idea where my energy is going to be at that time. And I know for any of my fellow empaths who are listening to this, you're going to totally understand what I'm talking about. So while I might book something in advance, and in that moment I think it's going to be a cool experience and I'm really going to enjoy it, it's very likely that when that day comes or when that moment comes, my energy is shifted and I just don't really feel like doing that thing. So what this has, by removing this construct of time, Excuse me, I'm a little bit stuffed up as well today. I had the AC blowing right on me last night, like directly into my face. So when I do that, so what this construct has helped me to do is to really listen to my body by focusing on the now and not projecting my future and planning what I'm going to do. Again, going back to the idea of planning in advance. So planning my days tomorrow, I'm really just focusing now on living in the moment. And this is really helping me to live in alignment with myself, which has been the most beautiful thing, because I'm not setting myself up for future activities and then I get there and I'm not really feeling like doing it. So that's been the second most beautiful realization. The third one, which is also an amazing one, which I've heard over the years but never really followed because I've been so addicted to a routine, which now I'm totally stepping away from without, I'm not setting an alarm clock, obviously, if I'm not even checking the time, that I wake up when my body feels I need to wake up. Now, here's another beautiful thing that I want to say about that is, I think it was my sister I was talking to about this, which was how I believe that every single day we expend a different amount of energy. Even if we do the exact same things every single day, if we were to live the exact same life over and over, things happen to us and from a reactive perspective that take more energy from us as well. So I don't believe there's any 2 days where we expend an identical amount of energy, which means translating into the next day. And I should say, like, when I add things like I exercise every day, I surf every day, sometimes 3 to 4 hours, sometimes I don't surf, like my energy levels are quite different. Sometimes I coach. When I'm coaching, when I'm shooting these videos, like my energy levels change drastically. And what I believe that means is that every single night we require a different amount of rest. So if I'm waking up, going to bed, from 10 till 6 every night, well, if I'm expending different amounts of energy from that day, I probably need more or less sleep. So the idea of having, I have to say, to having the incredible ability to be able to not have to wake up to an alarm clock, of course, which is a goal many of us are trying to get to, but to have that ability of waking up when my body tells me I'm ready to wake up. And I've been finding it's been about 8:22 is a number, like, going back to the early days when I did go back to checking the time. 8:22 seemed to show up a few times, but it is all over the place. But what I do know is I wake up and I feel rested, which is the most important. So I think this idea of having the construct of time, it might affect how much sleep we should be getting and how much proper rest. And rest really is the most important thing. So this goes into my third realization, is by not following the construct of time, this really helps me to listen to my body. And one way that I'm really learning about this is when I exercise. So when I talk about breaking the construct of time, I'm also talking not just about hourly and daily, but weekly and the days during the week. So what I used to do is I used to exercise 6 days a week, and Sunday would be my rest day. But I always knew that towards the middle of the week, I was getting tired, but I would push myself through. But now that I'm not focusing on days of the week, I'm really listening to my body. And what I'm finding is I will train for about 3 days in a row. And then usually after about 3 days of training, and especially when I'm surfing as well, I need a day of rest. But sometimes it's 2 days, sometimes it's 4 days. But I'm listening to my body and I'm allowing my body to tell me when I am fully recovered and ready to train again, which is the most beautiful thing. So overall, what I think this idea of what time does is it forces us to live in the future and focus on that idea as opposed to being present. And it takes away from us living fully in alignment and listening to our body with how we should be living our life, which I think is such a beautiful thing and such an important thing that we should all be doing. So anyways, this is a real big one that I'm going to be continuing to work on, one that I'll continue to share realizations on, but I just wanted to share it with you about how cool it is and how cool this entire process is of escaping the matrix. I'll talk to you later. Peace.